ALTBAYS. 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 And we're live. ALTBAYS show brought to you by ALTBAYS.nz. If you're watching us right now, it's because you are on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, you should do what? Subscribe to our channel. That helps. That really helps to keep our channel and our mission going forward, growing. Thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed, and for the people who are supporting us, we really appreciate it. There's a button right under the screen called join, and if you click on that one, it means that you can give a donation for our channel. We appreciate that too. We have to pay the bills. Thank you so much. We have a second channel called the ALTBAYS Clips, where we break down the conversations. So if your attention span is like mine, very short, and you can keep up with 1 hour conversation, you can watch the ALTBAYS Clips. The shorter, do that. We are on all the main social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
Yes.
Good, Kenjia. So, TikTok, so you can follow us there, and we upload short clips that gives you a teaser of what the show was, so you can see if you like it, and then you go for the full show. Easy. Obviously, we are a podcast, so we are in all the audio platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and all those main ones. You will find us there. ALTBAYS. Thanks for supporting us. It's been a great week. We're having fun. We're having a lot of fun. This is show 129. Yeah. Like back in time. Whoa, yeah, 3 times per week. It's a lot, but we are loving it. We're loving to have these conversations and get to know people better and to chat. That's why we're here for. There's no judgmental, vibes. We just chat, okay? It's not an interview. We're just having a conversation with good friends, with good people. Easy. On my left tonight, I have the pleasure.
Hello.
To talk to Kenny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you here on my side. How are you?
I'm here. I'm very good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm ready to go.
Always ready?
Yep.
Nice. I like that. I was noticing your tattoos.
Yes.
When did you get them?
Basically when I first turned 18.
Oh,
I thought I was going to be rebellious.
Ooh.
And then I didn't stop because apparently it's an addiction.
Right.
Yeah.
So is the plan to cover it?
No, I've stopped now. I've stopped for a bit. I think my mum's disappointed enough.
Damn,
no,
Mom.
she likes
Sorry,
them,
Mom.
but I'm going to stop now for a while. It's expensive as well.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes. What about the pain? Is it all right?
It's not too bad. I haven't had any really big, long tattoos, so it's not been terrible. I mean, obviously it's painful. Everyone goes in there and is like, it doesn't hurt that much, but it does hurt. You're getting stabbed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A
bit addicted though, isn't it? Is that kind of pain that you're kind of like, it was, well, maybe this is just me, but it's a good, I actually had a good feeling after. I was like, that was actually being uncomfortable for a little while, and then you see what came out of that.
Yeah, it's what you get out of it, I guess, yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
This is a very special show because tonight we have Mr. Polly.
Good evening.
Good evening. And Jani Dennis.
Hello.
So good to see you guys.
Oh, good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming.
We love this show. It's really good.
Thank you.
What you're doing for Whirianga, really nice.
Thank you so much. We met, almost 9 years ago, I would say? 8 years?
8 or 9 years, yep.
8 or 9 years. I'm on the list of the privileged people who got to play with you guys, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Mutual, very mutual.
Thank you very much.
You were a wild drummer.
I was.
Beautiful
Oh,
hands.
you still are.
Oh. Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely a great experience to be welcomed by such a supportive community and collective of great musicians. So I'm very thankful. So that was the Mercury Bay Big Band. that I jammed with.
Yeah.
Yep.
First stages. Yeah.
First stages.
Yeah.
So was that like the start of the big band, 2014? I would say.
I think that was
Yep.
it. Yeah.
How did that come about? Like, so who came up with the idea? Was it something that you guys had planned before? You've done before?
Helen Lee. It was her impetus. Yeah.
And then how was the thing? Did she come to you guys and she was like, yeah?
Well, yeah, we're sort of extended family members, so we're always supportive and thought it was a great idea. As long as we didn't have to find the initial arrangements, she handled all that and found people like you, miraculous rhythm sections, and you were the guy that put our first performance on YouTube, Santana's Smooth.
That's right.
And I was shocked that it actually sounded all right.
It sounded pretty good.
Yeah, Leo's the miracle man. No, thank you very much. Yeah.
Ooh, miracle man. Okay, and oh yeah, thank you very much, Taylor. I just want to, before we go on with the big bands, I just want to say thank you to our friends from Slice Baby for bringing this beautiful car for us.
Ooh,
Did you
yeah.
guys enjoy the pizza?
Oh, it's
yeah.
so yummy.
Delicious. Delicious.
Winning tonight.
The best
Winning.
pizza.
Best.
Pizza. Yeah.
So sourdough based. These guys are amazing. Local, beautiful family. 23 Albert Street. So if you are coming to the Coromandel for the holidays, make sure to check them out. And if you live here, you know the drill. Best pizza in town. So make sure to check them. Slice Baby. On Facebook, you can order there. There's the number and everything. We're gonna keep their logo on the TV, so you can check them out. And thank you so much, Kapai. Thanks, guys, for
Thank
bringing
you,
some beautiful
guys.
food. Woo!
Way to go.
Yes. So you mentioned something about the charts. Would you say that that's probably the biggest challenge when you're putting such a big project like that together, or it's like bringing people together? Is the practice? What are the challenging parts of running a big band?
Yeah, I think definitely you got to have some charts, some common music for everybody to read. We're very lucky. Roger Fox, Mr. Big Band from Wellington, the doctor, he's always just kept us, and he'll send the charts up and we can have a go. Obviously, all the details of organising rehearsal space, it's a key one. It's always difficult, and we have been lucky most of the time. But, like at the moment, we have to bring drums in for every rehearsal. It's difficult for the drummer. Just logistics like that.
We're lucky because we've got a librarian talking about charts.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've got 9 books of charts because I play the keyboard, and the keyboard's always got 4 or 5 pages, whereas the trumpet's got 1 page or something. So we have a librarian, and he's fantastic. So he photocopies the charts and gives them out, and it's a big job.
Shout out to the librarian. Who is the librarian?
Roger.
Mr. Roger, shout outs. Thank you so much for supporting the big band. How was what was the biggest amount of people that you guys put together with the big band? How many musicians did you have at
Probably about 16, maybe 16 or 17.
Yeah.
But we have ring-ins, people who come in for a show, like the Anzac Day concert. We had 3 trombone players from Auckland and Waihi, and so then it can get up to 18, 19 people, and then you need a conductor because otherwise it doesn't work.
So, Paul, what is the importance and what is the job of a conductor? Because for us who play music, we make sense of those things. But like when we had Dave Rhodes last week, we were chatting, and then Jess, our co-host, she was like, "What does a music producer do?" And then I was like, "Of course, those questions are important." So, what does a music conductor do, and how important it is for a big project like that?
Yeah, okay. It's helpful to have somebody out the front there who gives you the cues, like louds and softs, start, stop, one section solo, stuff like that. Be sensitive to the soloist. It might be a soloist. Means the rest of the band needs to quieten down. And being out the front, he can hear better than all the rest of us who are in there amongst it. So normally we rehearse and perform. Like we're less than 15 at the moment, so we can handle trying to hack it without a conductor, but it's always a help when there's bigger numbers.
Right. Is it like, does it require a big, great amount of knowledge of all the instruments, or it's more about like music theory and good ears?
Oh, it's good ears. A conductor, he needs to be able to follow the score, basically know who's supposed to be coming in and out at different times. But the main thing is you can pick all that up by ear. And like one thing I was wanting to stress in this opportunity to advertise the band, was that you don't have to be. We're just talking to Kenjia about this.
Yes.
You don't have to be the greatest reader. You need to be able to understand reading, but these days everybody can just listen to YouTubes. You get to play along. You pick it up, and each time, even now after these years, I'm getting better at playing the scores. Like I'm still parts I'm improving my reading on. So it's just give it a go. And the main thing is it's the buzz of playing together, putting our sounds together, and seeing what happens. Actually, that feeling that you get in a big group.
So we're getting to that part of the conversation that I'm looking forward to, which is Kenjia's co-project with the big band. But like, did you get to see the big band before? Like, did you go to some performances before you joined the band?
I mean, I've known Jani and Paul for years and years, and the big band as well. So I have seen plenty of the big band, watched plenty of it. Like it's been in this town for how long? 8 years now?
8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years. So it's definitely like known, and I definitely have watched lots of it. Yeah.
And can you tell me, Jenni, how is the thing with the different ages? Because you guys have a lot of senior musicians, but I remember having like the young guys there, and that there's this energy, the gels and mixes. Was that an idea from the beginning to do that, or it just happened because of the demographics of our area? How did that come about?
Well, we have sort of the rules for the big band, and one of them is to encourage young students. It's part of our sort of band thing, the big band thing. So when we were teaching at school, it was a bit easier to get students in. So at one point, Paul had 4 of his students in the big band, and that was fantastic. But since we haven't been at school, it's a bit harder to encourage young people. So the band came up a couple of years ago with the student that you got, the student
Scholarship.
Yeah. Thank you. And so that's what we're offering, hoping that somebody who's really interested in music, you don't have to necessarily be a great music reader. You can listen to it on YouTube and play along. Kenjia did that a lot with a lot of the songs, because it can be a bit daunting to see some of these charts, and try and read them. So you don't have to do that. You just have to want to play. It's fun playing with a mixture of ages. That's definitely good. So we're just encouraging any young person who would like to play sort of regularly, like we play once a week or we practice once a week. We do a few gigs during the year. And so it gives you a bit of something to look forward to in your music. It's quite difficult to fit in a lot of guitarists or a lot of drummers, or even like we've had two keyboard players, so we can do that. You could probably do 2 guitars, but the wind section is always the one that we're hoping for. Somebody who can come and play a saxophone or a clarinet, but not necessarily just that. If you can sing, or just interested.
And brass. Yeah.
And brass, yeah. We had and the language schools are quite good, because often Asian students have been learning an instrument since they were 5. We had a Japanese girl who was playing the trombone with us for a while, and she was really beautiful. It was really nice to have her out the front, this really beautiful Japanese girl. But then in the language school, she learnt this phrase, hanging out with my friends. So when she didn't turn up for the band practice, we'd say, well, where were you this week? Hanging out with my friends.
Learned very well. Good.
But no, we really like to have a mixture because some of us are really old. I mean, we're quite old, but there's even older ones. And so...
Jenni, do you feel like, depending on the country, because you mentioned the language schools, do you guys feel like countries like European countries or even like Japan and China, do they have a different approach to studying music from all this time that you guys have been doing this for a while? Like, or it depends on the person? What do you guys think?
My impression is they've got it higher up on the pedestal than we have, you know. So my highest achieving students, they've got that sort of lineage, you know. And so that's the gift. That's the fantastic gift that have these students coming through the schools, like language school, high school, and often they're hot, you know. And so, and they want to play, and it's part of what they've been brought up to do, you know. And so they're the gift for sure.
But sometimes the biggest problem is that even when they come from Europe and they've been studying a long time, they don't have their instrument with them. They didn't bring it. It was too big or too heavy. But you can rent instruments here. You know, they can get an instrument if they're keen to join in. So
how do we find how do we find a good balance? Because I've been teaching drums now in New Zealand for 7 years. And I have an approach of like, I love to focus on the energy, making sure that the students are having a good time. But like, it's too easy sometimes to drop the ball and they don't get to practice as much because it's the fun class, it's the time that I can go and, you know, do my thing. But then like, a lot of students don't have drumsticks, you know, like a lot of the students, like not having a drum kit, I understand. But like some students, you know, so there's this thing that I'm always trying to find a balance, because I can tell that some students, they want to be there more for like a, you know, it's something that I need to get out of the classroom. And I noticed that and I'm like, cool, let's enjoy music, because there's a beautiful part of the thing to enjoy music. But like, how do we find that good balance? And just to make sense of that, I have amazing friends, composers who live in town, and great musicians from Auckland that they would say, I learned in a way that I feared my teacher, and that was not good, you know, like I love what I can do now, but sometimes when I go back and I look back to my childhood and everything, I kind of like had some moments that I was actually doing and I feel pressured, you know, like, so I always think, ooh, how do we find that? How do we do it?
I was really lucky, and my parents struck the deal with me. If you practice, we'll buy you a new instrument. If you do your first year. So I started on a wreck of a piano, and then they gave me the new instrument. So by then, I'd got hooked on the practice routine. And I think Kenjia could share that you get a buzz from your practice, you know, it starts to feed back, you look forward to it, it's your own personal thing. Like first pop band, our drummer started off with, we stripped down the coat hangers for his sticks, you know, we had one drum or something, and the neighbours complained immediately, you know, but we knew we were onto something, and we just got holiday jobs, saved up for our instruments, and went from there. You find a way. The big buzz for me in my last few years at Mercury Bay was that we found cheaper instruments for the kids to buy and get going. That instrument, they might wear it out in a year or so, but by then they were playing. And it's like learning to read, you know, that's the main thing. You get going.
Right. How was the thing for you? Can you tell me?
Well, I actually was not asked to go into music lessons. My parents did not try to put me in them. I actually asked them if I could start, because I don't actually come from a musical family. Like, there are musical people in my family, don't get me wrong, but my mum and my dad, nothing at all. So when I was probably 7 or 8, I saw this really cool, this is a true story. You remember those plastic clarinets that came out and they were all the neon colours and stuff? I saw one of those and I was like, man, that looks really cool to like play. I could only get my hands on an old saxophone at the time, so I started off as an alto saxophone, and then the next year I got my first plastic clarinet that sounded like crap, and just kept playing clarinet till Jani and Paul left in lessons. And for me, the reason why I stuck at it was because I was really liked practicing, was not forced to practice. And I sometimes wonder, like, I look at my friends that were forced into lessons at the time, not many of them stayed with it. It's the ones who genuinely had the drive to want to keep going, stayed at it. Yeah.
Do you feel like music is for everyone?
I do, in different ways. And some people find it later on in life and some people find it really young. I think that everyone is going to find music at some point, whether that be dance, singing, poetry. Everyone's artistic in some way, and music always ties into it. So I do believe music is for everyone. Anyone can learn how to play an instrument. I've known people who were 50 years old and started learning how to play guitar, and they can play a guitar. So it's for everyone. It's not for exclusive people, and it shouldn't be that way either.
And it helps with other things, right, Jenni? When you do a good practice, when you focus on your music, it helps with other areas of your life, I would say.
Oh yeah, I think so. Well, for us, it's a relaxation. Like we practice at home, it's a relaxation, and even after the practice, we feel really good, and it leads on to listening to a lot of music. If you start to play it, you start to get interested in other people who are playing it, or and other songs, and you start doing things like going to music festivals and looking on YouTube and things like that. So I don't think you necessarily have to be really good, but doing it will definitely lift you up. But you know, if you're a sports person into sports, you practice. You get a buzz out of going to the field on a Saturday morning. If you're playing music, you get that same buzz if you join a group or even one other person. You get that buzz of playing with someone. Like the first time we met you, our first practice place was at a venue on the waterfront, and you were behind the bar working there, and you just couldn't resist. You leapt over the bar and came and started drumming. And because of your background, Latin, could I say, Latin background, we were saying, wow, who's this handsome drummer? So it's, you know, I think it's really good for people. They get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
It's hard to find people who don't like music, Paul.
Right.
Yeah. There are some crazy ones who say that it's not my thing, but it's so tribal, eh? Like the
universal language. Yeah.
The universal language. How long have you guys been on this musical journey?
Well, we've had our own band, Soul Sax Plus. I'll just show the T-shirt, Soul Sax Plus. But that's 31 years now. But before that, Paul was a professional musician in Auckland from when you were 18 or something. So that's a long time.
Many cool bands and collectives and cool projects, Paul, at that time.
My grandpa played piano every day. I stayed with my grandparents all my holidays, you know. So I used to hear those. I didn't realise those country waltzes there was a lot of jazz standards. So I got the buzz from him. My uncle was just up the road. He gave me my first saxophone. He said, "Here, have a go." He also gave me a 2-track tape recorder. I started recording the late night jazz programs, playing along. My dad, when I was about 10, built me a crystal set. It's before transistor radios. He bought the components, gave me a crystal set of Army surplus headphones, and I started listening to late night jazz and got hooked. So I became a fan of jazz, and it just kept on going. So then it's all the roots music, new age music, you know, fusion. It's just kept on going. And I'm really excited that there's people like you in the community, and the community is getting richer all the time. The fabric of artistic expression. Everybody needs to let go in the music somehow. It makes you feel better. You know, you get a charge out of it. And that's the thing about coming back to the big band. That's why we're trying to keep it going. Kenya's the exciting new blood. We're calling out for, hey, who wants to be the new? Got 2 scholarships coming up this year.
So when you guys say scholarship, what does it mean? What is the project? How does it work?
It means that somebody has to be committed. You get it's a $500 a year scholarship, and you have to sort of be committed to come to as many practices as you can. I mean, obviously, sometimes you can't, and you have to be committed to performing with the big band. You can't just come to practice and say, "Oh no, I'm not going to perform." So you have to sort of want to do those things. And that's pretty much it, isn't it, Kenjia? And then just sort of have a good time when you come along. And Kenjia learnt, she was telling us earlier, quite a lot of our songs just on YouTube by listening to them. Kenjia can read music, but she found it easier just to listen, which is the thing with a lot of young people. So that's basically all it is, an opening for anybody who wants to put a bit of time, have a bit of a time for their music for a year. Or if you can't do it for a year, if say you're an international student, you're there for 6 months, then we can talk about that. Just come for 6 months. So,
is it easier nowadays to become a musician, Paul, that you have all this access to like this infinite source of information, or people get a bit complacent, get a bit lazy? What do you think?
Well, if you want to play, that's right. All the tools are there. Just go online and everything you need to know. But you just got to not get sidetracked. Like I'd have kids coming in at school, I just want to blow something, so it's all this is just the youthful need. I reckon it should be easier, but apart from the online sort of distractions, that's what you got to steer around,
They're being nice, Ken. It's so much easier life for YouTube, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is. There's no two ways about that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I learnt for the first 4 years I did music purely on here's the sheet of music. But the thing about Jani and Paul, because that's where I started with them, was I was always taught improvisation.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made me able to learn more instruments, more different types of music, because I started off on jazz and scores, and I've completely developed and moved away from that until I came back to the big band. But it is easier, but you do need to know some of it. But then again, it's a feeling more than anything. It's a feeling more than a piece of music sitting in front of you. I can see so many people who can sit there and play a piano while looking at the score, but they're not feeling anything. So, yeah.
Right. I have a student, and we're learning a song from a band called Queens of the Stone Age. It's a rock and roll, it's a heavy song, and there's an album that Dave Grohl recorded the drums. Dave Grohl, drummer from Nirvana and Foo Fighters, lead singer. And then there was this drum fill that we were doing our best to practice our oral skills, see if we could break it down by listening to it, and we were struggling with that one. And then I was like, man, let's have a look on YouTube. And then there's this drum track of the song. And then he's like, man, YouTube is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, man, people complain about the 5G towers, and I understand, but look at what it provides. This fast, accessible drum track for us to break it down. And he cracked up, and it was funny. But it was just funny moments to find stuff, find beautiful things. Who would imagine that nowadays everything is there, you just boom, and it's quick, right? You guys mentioned I want to talk about the other projects that you guys are involved, but mentioning the Soul Sax and being on the road for so long, how was the vibe in the like the 70s, the 80s, like going out? What was it like? Auckland's the main place for you guys, or like was more Wellington? Where was it happening in Aotearoa, New Zealand? Like where was the hot place to be for music?
Well, I come out of Auckland. I'm a Westie. Great bands come out of the western suburb. The La-Di-Das were my role models. So I ended up playing full-time in the clubs before licensing. So that was a beautiful way to learn your rock and soul, 6 nights a week in the same building, and all sorts of people coming through. That was a good education. End of the Vietnam War, all the American boats coming back, a great social mix going on. So we were just not playing many covers. I mean, not playing many originals. But the boss was saying, hey, how's about some originals, boys? So next thing, we've got a producer, signs us up. I get to record my first original song with the band Cruise Lane. So I stuck with that professional scene after the nightclub passed over for about 5 or 6 years. I was getting burnt out, but the scene was raging. I could have gone to Sydney with Dragon. They offered me the gig before Paul Hewson dropped into it. So I was right on the scene, but I decided not to go on the road. So I started getting into the studio musician scene, and the guys I was working with, they started writing lots of jingles and demos, getting into that's where the real money is. So rather than getting burned out on the road, I was laying back into my family, starting my own originals band that played for political functions and stuff. We did the Jumping Sundays and that freed the Albert Park Band Rotunda, stuff like that.
When you say political, you mean like someone was running for mayor or whatever, and then you guys would play?
It was during Muldoonism, and Values Party was the green left, and I was supporting that. Yeah. So at the same time, I just wanted to come and live here. I'd found this piece of land here and got my family down here in 1976. And we would really resent it when Dave Dobbin came to town and he'd put a big hissing fence around the Centennial Park.
Mr. Dave Dobbin.
And really rip off. Because that was when bags of money were being made by people like Dave Dobbin, doing his beer anthems all around the country, the loudest band. So relatively they were wild times. We got heaps of big, good bands now that are really willing to do the work on the road. That's where it's got to be now. But I managed to avoid that one, and I thought I had it really lucky in that it was just before licensing, 6 nights a week in an underground venue, and Home Machop had a Hammond organ and a grand piano supplied, and all the American sailors coming through and juicing us up. So I was lucky, yeah.
Jenni, there's a famous quote from Nina Simone that I really like it. She was a very political singer and musician, and I think it was something like if like you cannot be a musician, an artist, and not reflect the times, like talking about the importance of what's happening. And how do you see that? How do you see this? And of course, because she was very political, for her, it was her mission, was her life. It doesn't mean that applies for everyone. But I know you guys, for the people who don't know you guys, like we'll get there to like how much you guys value like a peaceful lifestyle, like connecting with nature. We're going to get to that part of the conversation. But how do you see this relationship with something so important, so personal, so like that connects us to the universe, but at the same time is such a strong weapon, it's such a political thing to do, like how do you guys see that connection?
As Soul Sax for the last 30 years, we played mostly in Auckland, and we had some really good venues. Like we played on Devonport Wharf for Saturday, Sunday for every weekend, and then just recently, the last 10 years or so, we were playing in the parks. That was fantastic venues, and we would promote ourselves as being from the Coromandel and how beautiful a place it was. and how much the plants and the regeneration and the love of New Zealand meant to us, because we lived in this really beautiful place called the Coromandel. So most, that was really good. Like people could relate, because we could play a lot of our original songs as well as playing covers. And a lot of the time when we were playing in Auckland, rather than being in nightclubs and things, we were out in family events. The playing in the parks in Auckland were family events. Playing on Devonport Wharf was a family event, so we did a lot of playing up there, and that was fun. Like mostly people were very interested in the birds, because we talk about the birds and saving the birds and looking after the birds and looking after the trees and planting kauri trees. We had a song, Kauri 2000, that we used to play quite a lot. So that occasionally people would come up and say, "Oh, from the Coromandel, have you got any of that green stuff?" That was quite often. Because the Coromandel...
Expecting it to pop from the horn section.
They come rushing up. "Oh, musicians from the Coromandel have green stuff."
You just keep it in your backpack, don't you?
Or behind your ear.
Yeah.
Now we say, no, we're musicians, and we're just, looking after the land and the birds and things like that. But, that was quite a connection for a lot of young people, this sort of thing. Not like that anymore, folks. Whirianga is a very upcoming, ritzy, lovely, touristy place. But there was a time when it was known for for its darker side.
Definitely more conservative now than it used to be. Yeah.
Do you think there's still room for that? Do you think it's possible to balance those things, for the progress, the development, and still keep a sustainable, respectful connection with nature, or these things don't go well together?
No, it strikes me that there's more and more creative people being attracted to the area all the time. It's not just the big new houses, and there's a lot of, they're coming here for the creative inspiration, and it's enriching the fabric of the community. It trickles down, So although we always did the covers, we'd always say, "Hey, how's about one of our own songs about the beautiful birds and trees down here, and current issues, like what about keeping the water clean? We need stuff like that." We wouldn't ignore what was going on with the climatic crisis that we're in. We try to be relevant, authentic voice for the here and now.
We had a couple of anti-mining songs, and we still play those. We played in a pub in Waihi, and we played an anti-mining song. It didn't go down very well.
No.
It was a miners' pub.
It was a miners' pub, so they didn't like that very much.
Right.
But no, so we do offer these things, and as a performing musician, you do have that certain amount of, you have to be careful, because how much you can influence people, or what you can influence with. Like, you do have a bit of influence, so we try and keep it light as possible. So
I often hear that musicians choosing to not get involved, to be like, "Oh, don't ask me about my political views," or "I prefer not to mention this," and let's get a young take on that. Kenjia, how do you see it? Because like what I feel like nowadays, because information is so like in our face all the time, and there's so much, sometimes we get caught up with things that we didn't have to. But sometimes I feel like the things that we should be paying attention, there's a lot of opinions, and you don't even know what is right or wrong. Things start to get a bit like lost. How do you feel about someone who is like, how old are you? I'm sorry? 20. How do you analyze the moments that we're living now? Because it's your generation, it's your time. We can say that, right?
Yes, definitely.
I think politics and music has always gone together. Disco was born out of politics. R&B was born out of politics. Hip-hop was born out of politics. And politics is important. It always has been and always will be. I don't understand why people feel the need to shy away from their political opinions, because if you're not sharing them, you're not progressing anywhere. And people play political music for years and years and years. I understand why, especially now more than ever, I find this more divided almost in our music and our things like that. And I think that if you can bring a message into music and a message and talk about it as well, instead of focusing what's in here, what's in front of you right now, music is a good way to do that, if you know what I'm saying.
Great medium.
I know what you're saying. Yes. And then I agree, because I see the value in having fun, in practicing, in doing good for yourself and doing that. But like, there's always this opportunity to go for it, like try to influence, not influence someone, but like to speak your own truth, and then people are listening to you. As you said, it's so potent, isn't it? You at the top, you got the microphone, you got the power. We hold a lot of power in those positions, and you never know when it starts and when it stops the influence, right? And then we come with these beautiful things that we have here on the table. You can record your message, right? It's there forever. How was that process for you guys, Paul? To like, now we're gonna come up with our albums. We're gonna write the songs. We're gonna put them out there.
Yeah, it's been very satisfying. So, like, for instance, just the other night you had Davey Rhodes here, one of the best producers in the country. He lives here. He's just built his own studio here. We were able to record with him, you know. After that, we had a traumatic fire in 2017 that burnt one of the houses on our property. But it really pushed us a lot creatively. A whole set of new songs came out. We were able to record those with Matt Sefton and Coromandel. That's our most recent online recordings, the stuff. So, you know, like you be where you're at. You have your own artistic vision, and all this other stuff's going to happen anyway, like the fire that might just about take you out, you know. You've got climate change happening all around you. Like we're on a really steep piece of land. Okay, we've tried to regenerate it as much as we can. The Pahutakawas are doing really well. But every time there's an extra extreme cloud burst, there are slips that happen. The land is slumping, you know. The land's still suffering from what happened to it when it was milled, when it was logged, and it was burnt, you know, when the Pākehās arrived. So we feel that part of our responsibility, got to leave the land in better shape and keep expressing this thing of what's going on, the real creative inspiration that the land still gives us, express it in our songs. So one of our albums totally dedicated to when the bellbird came back, when our first pururi tree started flowering. Little things mean a lot when you're starting from just a piece of scrub, you know, in the wilderness sort of stuff.
We always, we all should respect the water, the fire, you know, like you go for a swim and it's beautiful, and that moment that a big wave comes and almost takes you, you're like, oh. Same with fire. You have a candle at the table, and then for 1 second you burn your finger and you're like, whoa, this is powerful. Jenni, seeing something huge taking such a big part of your life and feeling that, like, how is to process what you, if you don't mind just briefly telling us, for the people who don't know, what happened to your land and how is the process to process with such a big thing?
It was a very dry, hot summer. So the potential for any fire starting on the hill where we live, which is a sort of a peninsula into the Whirianga Harbour, it could happen at any time. So everyone's very aware of it. So the fire that hit us that year, nobody knows how it started. Could have just started with a piece of glass on the dry grass. And the fire went into the bush, and before they even noticed, it was already right through the bush. So getting fire engines up to our place is quite difficult. They had about 10 fire engines from everywhere. I think how much? 50 acres was, but 50 hectares. A lot of land was burnt. Several houses were burnt. The firemen called it a good fire because nobody died. we all had to evacuate. We thought our house on the other side of the peninsula was quite safe, but no, because when the fire starts going, it makes its own wind. It's so hot. Like, you talk about fire, but you don't really think about all the heat and the wind that it makes. They call it a fire dragon, and that's what it's like. It's like you don't know where it's coming from or where it's going to pop up. So we thought we'd be safe on the other side of the hill, but by 12 hours later, the fire had gone right round the hill. We thought the water would be safe. We had water all around us, but no, it just burned all the rushes in the water. The water was on fire. And then it just sort of comes up all the valleys. It usually follows the ridges. So we had firemen on the hill for over 3 weeks. But the initial time, they had 100 firemen, and they couldn't put hoses on it because of the bushfire. They had to go down with spades and hack it out. And we had 3 helicopters there all the time. Luckily, we've got water all around us because they were just scooping water out of the estuary and pouring it on the fire. And it was just really because of those helicopters that our house didn't burn. It was very close. Burned our vegetable garden, half the corn patch. And then the fire people stayed for several weeks afterwards. They'd come around every night. They based themselves on the hill, but every night they'd come around with their fire engine, because it would break out. The fire would break out where you wouldn't expect it. I was walking up our drive one afternoon, and I just looked down and said there was smoke coming out from a bamboo grove, and I thought, that shouldn't be happening, and sure enough, a fire had sort of popped up there. So after about 4 weeks or something, the fire people went away, but they left little electronic monitors all around the hill connected to their computer, so that if there were any breakout of fire, they would know and they would come and sort it out. So they were really fantastic. But what a mess. The whole place looked like a piece of toast. What had been green and lush and beautiful suddenly was just like burnt toast. There was nothing left. It was just, yeah.
Paul, what was the first sign? What was the first thing that caught your attention that you noticed that something was wrong? Was it someone who came to you, or you picked up?
Yeah. Helen rang us from her house on the other end of the property and said there's a fire broken out. Well, we're on the west side, but this was broke it out on the east side, everybody out. So we were all evacuated immediately. And we watched it run down the ridge on the east side. So it basically got away, and then in the night it came right back over and around. So I sort of had a premonition. I had a big headache the day before, and I had a sort of meditation. Hey, how lucky I've been to live here for 40 years, so lucky, lay down under a tree. But I judge myself now that I wasn't out looking for a hot spot, because it was, there's always, down a road, people have thrown out bottles, there's glass, and I should have been looking for combustion happening then, so we learned a lot. And so now we got a lot more water tanks, got a lot more got fire hoses. The neighbours have helped us bulldoze lots more fire breaks. And we have learnt that, even up in the scrub on this marginal hill country, where there's an orchard and grass, it will stop a fire. So it's a sort of we proved that it's a sustainable lifestyle to grow your veggies on sunny spots on marginal hill country, because your veggies and your orchards with a bit of grass around them, they will stop it.
Yeah, because it went through the bush. It was just looking for bush to burn through the scrub and the bush. So the firemen, when they told us what to do after this, they said, plant lawns around your house, because the fire doesn't actually like to go over the lawn particularly. It'll sort of turn around and go back in the bush. So, But the helicopters were fantastic. I always tell the funny story that they worked all day grabbing water and putting it in the on the fire. And then at midnight they stopped and they said, by law, we have to have 6 hours rest. You know, we have to stop flying. So they said, we'll be back at 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, by 6 o'clock, we'd gone down from where we were evacuated to the other side, bottom of the hill, Mill Creek. And we were standing there watching this fire just coming up and burning the whole thing. And we could see our house, and one house had been burnt. And we thought, well, this is it. And then suddenly at 6 o'clock, the helicopters came over the hill. And we thought, oh, maybe there's a chance that we won't lose the house and the music room. And so if you ask me what an angel looks like, I said it looks like a helicopter. Because they look like angels coming in. With the monsoon bucket. And I said, oh, well, wow. Maybe. You know, so, yeah, and they were fantastic. Yeah.
That was big,
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, it was
just like the whole town. There was such a...
Yeah, it was big.
Vibe.
Yeah, because there's lots of trees, and big trees were going up in flame, and it was very scary. They call it the fire dragon because that's why people get hurt. The fire gets behind you and you haven't noticed. And, you know, without you noticing the fire's gone behind you, can't get out. So they did evacuate everybody as soon as it was happening.
I think people are so naive, though, in New Zealand especially.
Yeah.
Like, no one kind of, even though we knew it could happen, and in the environment it was in and how hot it was perfectly possible to happen, but no one can imagine it actually happening. And that's why it shocked everyone so much, I think.
Well, it shocked us because it was first seen at 9 o'clock in the morning. A little wispy bit of smoke was seen coming out of the first bit of bush, and somebody said, oh, can you just go and put a bucket of water or sand on that and just, you know, cover it over. And so they did that, but nobody realised it had already gone down. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon, suddenly there was a lot more smoke and more flames, and they realised, actually, just a little message, if there's any little bit of smoke on your property, call the fire brigade then. Don't wait for it to get bigger because you don't know how big it is in the bush. If someone had called the fire brigade at 9 o'clock in the morning, they might have been able to contain it before it had gone everywhere.
You guys live in a beautiful place where there are communities, people growing their food, so we can say there is a much more sustainable way of living. When did you guys start that? When was the call for a different lifestyle from the city to something different?
For me, I'm playing in nightclubs, you know, 6 nights a week, and I've got young kids, and it's the end of the Vietnam War. The Back to the Land movement started. I was at university for a few years studying music, and these underground magazines start arriving from California, and it's all survivalist stuff, you know. We can survive the nuclear holocaust. And people are arriving in New Zealand looking for the safe, high places. North Americans started coming here looking for a survivalist haven. So I got pretty involved in that. I believed that this could be true. And I thought, I've got to get my kids out of the city into a safe place in the country. And was lucky enough to find down here. So right from the start, we're growing our vegetables. I praised up Ngāti Hay friends I made. Hey, this land here, it grows really good kumaras. And we always try to get as many veggies going as possible. We were very lucky we were beside Wilderland, which was organic vegetable farm at that stage, you know. Always lots of help, how to get your veggies going and the trees. So the same time, we got this desperate need to play music still. We would hire a generator and go bush in the weekend up to Egan Park or something to jam. Some teacher from Mercury Bay discovers us and said, hey, will you come and teach your saxophones and flutes at Mercury Bay Area School? So that's how the teaching came in for us. But we always had the survivalist notion, and I think Whirianga is part of what it's got going for it, you know. If Putin wants to start throwing nuclear weapons, he could take out Auckland and we'd still be safe, you know. So it's still part of my consciousness.
I hope he doesn't do that.
I don't think we'd be safe.
It's still part of my consciousness, you know. Whitianga has got East Coromandel has got a very special stuff going.
Yeah, we're
for
lucky.
it. And just to know that the biggest carriage tree, the fattest carriage tree ever milled, came out of Mill Creek. It's a really good place to grow trees, and so that's been of great joy to me to have a bit of space to grow some trees, you know. And so a lot of my songs are praise songs to the trees as well as to the birds that are coming back, you know. But the global warming thing is real. The fire for me was part of that, you know. We're still getting slips and stuff happening on the land. We're trying to cope with the global warming. We bought enough solar panels to be self-sufficient power-wise. We're working on going electric, and but we're going to keep playing our music, keep taking it out there for the community, you know, ready for all occasions, you know. But people are always going to need to dance, but they also need to relax, and they need to meditate. We got the music. We know how to do the music for all that stuff, you know. Going to keep on doing it, keep on offering it.
A lot of people love the idea of growing the foods and being like out there with nature. Is it easy, Jenni, or it's hard work?
Oh no, it's hard work. It's hard work, but it's a passion. If you want to grow vegetables, you have to work at it. You have to plant them, and then you have to weed them, and then you have to, if you get to harvest them and not the slugs or the snails, like we do ours all organically, so we don't use sprays and things like that, and that makes it a lot harder. And then you have to harvest them, and then you have to process them. Often you get too many beans, so you have to process them. We have a lot of fruit trees, so we get too many peaches, and then you have to process them, you have to bottle them, you have to dry them. So it is a lot of work, but it's very satisfying, especially at the cost of vegetables now in the shops.
Mm-hmm. And not even the best quality vegetables, right? So that's the most upsetting thing.
No, I eat my cabbage at home and I think, yeah, that's $8 worth. Good.
Yeah, that's one of the things that for me it's hard to understand, you know, like we're paying a lot and it's not even that nutritious, you know. A lot of people now are talking about the soil, how it's compromised, you know, like we don't have the nutrients, we don't have like nutritious foods because we're compromising the soil.
Well, we make a lot of we make all our own compost.
What are good tips, good tricks to keep a compost healthy and happy that you guys can share? Ooh, they don't want to share the secrets.
Oh yeah, no. Worms are good. No worms.
I'm joking,
you need worms. Encourage the worms.
We take all the coffee grounds we can from the service station, like, you know.
Add that to the compost
grounds, and feed up our worm farms. Worm farms love the coffee grounds, and that all goes into the compost. I've grown deciduous trees like oaks. They drop a massive amount of leaves. All goes into compost at autumn time, you know. So yeah, that's especially since retiring from the teaching, having more time in the garden. That's my passion, making all the compost. Yeah.
Paul does that, yeah. But because we don't spray, like a couple of years ago, we had a really bad problem with guava moth, which had come down from the north of the North Island. And it devastates your fruit. It sort of gets into your fruit and turns it sort of black inside. It's not nice. You sometimes can't even see it on the outside. You just open your fruit and there's that horrible black inside. So that took a lot of control. You have to pick up any fruit that's on the ground. We used organic things like neem oil.
Yeah, it's magic.
So we seem to have got on top of it. It's not as bad this year. But things like that, they keep you busy. But it's definitely worth it. But, you know, we were looking at a newspaper last week, and you can do it this way. You can grow microgreens. So there was this article about somebody growing all their vegetables in boxes in their lounge, in window boxes, and they just pretty much sprout anything and wait till they're just past the sprout stage till they become a little green and eat that. So there are all different kinds of ways, and I think it's really important. You know, we're lucky because we've got land. We've got plenty of land and plenty of fruit trees, but some people don't, so there are other ways of doing it.
With this crazy life, Kenya, that like there's not much time to do many things out there. What's the relationship with like having time to, you know, be out there growing a little something? Or
I'm the worst in my family to talk to about this because my dad, my sister, who's been on here especially, super into growing organic vegetables and gardens, and they talk about it all the time, and it's like a study almost, and it's so far over my head, and I'm probably the most lazy person when it comes to that, and every time my sister and my dad talk about it, I can listen, but for some reason I just don't quite get it. Like, I get the concept of, like, you know, you put a seed in the ground, but it doesn't just happen like that. I've learned that it's much more complex, but it's very sustainable at the same time, so it's something I probably should look into. However, that being said, they both have a lot more time than I do on their hands. I work 45, 50 hours a week. My dad works 1 day a week, and my sister works.
Ooh, there you go, family.
3. So
dropping those names now. Eh?
Sorry guys, but no, it is really cool, and I would like to know, but it's just an art form in itself.
It is, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah,
that's the only thing you can say. You go get all these setbacks like you do with anything that you're trying to learn. A lot of setbacks, a lot of hard work, didn't work. You know, the snails got all the carrots and the da-da-da. But it is very rewarding when you start to get some vegetables that you've grown, and they do taste better, and they're not sprayed, you know, so you do get that feeling. But it takes time and it takes effort.
And there are, the way that I see, like, there are moments in life for that. You know, I think I was lucky that I was living at the right place at the right time with the people who were keen to learn, and we had a friend who was keen to teach.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you start with something small, and as you said, there's this beautiful appreciation feeling of picking your tomato and saying like, oh, so this is a tomato. That's how it tastes like, you know, like, and then 2 years later, life is crazy and you're busy, but like, you're like, oh, you know what? I might just put some tomatoes there at the back and they will grow, you know, like, so that's the thing, like developing that passion. It's something that comes slowly, but at least you have it with you. That's my journey. I'm like, oh, just by watching people doing, you're like, oh, maybe if I do one thing. And I love those ideas of like communities that do one thing in each house, you know, like, so can you grow that thing and you grow the other thing, and then we try to swap.
Good idea. Yeah,
it's a great idea, isn't it?
Well, you see, even Wilderland, who we live next door to, they used to have a lot more people. So they had a lot of people working on the land. So they had lots of vegetables and they would sell them in the shop. But now they don't have as many people because of COVID and this and that. They can hardly grow enough for themselves. They definitely don't grow enough to sell in the shop anymore. But it was a big thing. When that shop started, that was the big thing, organic vegetables at the Wilderland shop. Anyway.
Come on, people, come to the Wonderland to support, have some veggies, and lovely people, right? We had Delphi here, and amazing to listen to this. So, but they always say that every time that we have a chat, they're like, it's not a retreat, you know, like it's not a place that, like, of course, nature does that, you know, like, so it's good when you spend a day there, and then at the end of the day, you're tired, you're feeling good because you did something, but like, it demands time and energy. Yeah. Right? You got to be out there and you got to do the work.
It's the same as anything, isn't it? Like, talking about work, I reckon going back to music and school, that was one of the best jobs. Actually, working in school with the next up-and-coming generation was super fulfilling. And I noticed, like, I was there for 25 years at the school here. And I noticed that a lot of students who were not coping in other areas, you probably noticed that too, would thrive in the music department because suddenly there was something that they could do or they could try to do, and it was creative, and they'd say things like, I can't do maths, I can't do science, but it's actually there. They're doing it in the music without really noticing, you know. So it was a great alternative to the academic thing. So it's great. It was a great job teaching at school. Thank you, school. Thank you.
Thank you, school. Thank you, school. Yes, yes. Paul, what is the next project that we have there to talk about? Because you guys are so busy. You're all over the place. What are the next cool things happening?
Well, the funniest thing is the rock and roll. I used to hate the rock and roll.
Rock and roll!
But we got a really good set of 50, 60 rock and roll. So we get a gig with the Beach Shop when they come around. So we played in Thames for the Beach Shop recently, and they're going to do another one in March. I don't know if they'll be allowed back in Whitianga, but it was great. It's great wherever they go. Great vibe, very exciting, you know. So that's one of our gigs. We just got another.
We've done it for about 5 years, but we did it a couple of weeks ago in Thames.
But the one closest to our heart is that we, at the anniversary day, end of January, we get to play for what's it called, Clay Day. It's in Coromandel at the little park there. There's a Barry Brickle Memorial little stage. We get to play all our originals. It's the one we're allowed to play. All our originals, and it's for the kids who are making pots for the first time. The local potters bring their wheels out into the park, and also other craftspeople, and invite the kids in, have a go. And so we see kids bringing their first pots up onto the stage in front of us while we're playing, you know. That's very, very special, because we were potters too. We did craft pottery for a long time. That was major string to the bow. So that's a very special one we're looking forward to.
And we're allowed to play all original songs because Barry Brickle was such an original person. He was the original king person who built the railway and made the pots and, you know, did all that. So everyone likes us playing original songs because that's what it's all about.
And it's exciting for me to hear Kenjia say that she's working on her original songs too. Because I'm teaching her. We did grade 5 jazz together at school. She's a proficient improviser, you know. But she's also a songwriter. So that like you say, Leo, is music for everybody. Yeah, we've all got songs inside us, you know. We just let them out, and it's so uplifting. Makes you feel a hell of a lot better. It gives you, this is the other part of myself. You know, I'm also part of me. That makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
One of the coolest moments, I think I can say this, in my journey in the Coromandel was the 2-year.
Oh yeah.
2-year festival.
Yeah,
because
that's important.
Not only it was an amazing opportunity for Stu and I to play at this beautiful big stage. The sound was amazing. The vibe was good. Like, I had to talk to Maori teachers, and I had to talk to people who know much more than me to make me feel comfortable about playing in a situation like that, because I had my questions. I was like, is this something that is right? Are we doing this the right way? And they were very supportive. They explained to me what was happening, and then I felt good. I felt empowered. I was like, okay, now I got the blessings, so I can do this. But watching you guys, because your family, it's quite, like everybody knows about the family and the different characters that you are, all like very special in your own ways. But like seeing you guys getting together to play that beautiful show, it was very special. So thank you for that.
That was the Cora Blues reunion.
Cora Blues reunion. So how is this thing in New Zealand with having this mix that we can look back and understand that it had its moments, but also brought us together. So how was that for you guys to have that invitation and to do that and to bring something relevant for your family and at the same time relevant for the nation?
Yeah, it was very, very special opportunity because we had our own original songs, and they come out of the experience, a lot of it, of living here on live on this beautiful land, but appreciating its history. We try and put more te reo into our songs. Facing the anti-mining issue, we would say, okay, we can weather this one. We'll find a way to weather this one if we all come together in love. And that was one of my songs performed that day. It's part of that united in love. There's no limit to our power to the people. Also, it not only the family band performance. I was able to perform a commission song with the big band, only my second ever commission. And so I wrote it with the idea I'm a sailor on Cook's ship in that first visit, and I'm totally blown out at this beautiful place. And I've got my wife at home. I'm in England. I'm really missing badly, and I'm probably going to run away with a Ngāti Hey girl any time, but I'm asking the Lord for forgiveness, and my hope is that one day I can bring you, my beautiful English-Irish Rose, my wife at home, here, and we can settle here together and fish and farm and raise a family, all those sort of phantasmagoric utopian ideals. I reckon some of those guys in Cook's crew would have had some thoughts like that, and that was my song. I got a chance to sing the song, write and arrange for the big band, and perform it at that particular special day. Also perform with Dixie Band and Soul Sax Plus original songs, and that very special, Cora Blues reunion. But walking the beach with all the thousands of people up to the Po Ferry at Wharekāhau, that was like a timeless mind expander, and all the walkers are sitting out in the bay. It was like a timeless moment, that was very, very special.
How is it for you, Kenjia? Because we hear a lot of stories from people who grew up not being even allowed to speak the language, like school was saying, don't speak Maori. You're not allowed to. There was not a good movement there supporting it. And now we hear this often in the show, a renaissance, like a beautiful moment of Maori coming strong to our daily life. How is it for you? Like, how is to be a young person watching this whole movement and like how things shift?
I mean, it's very long overdue and very needed. My sister, who is Pākehā, we're Pākehās, she's learnt the Māori language the whole way through school, all 3 NCA levels, got an award for it, and it's just like, I wasn't alive, but not even 30, 40 years ago, you weren't allowed to speak the language. It was discriminated. I studied history in school, and history in schools can be quite whitewashed. So you have to... I tried to look back in a way that wasn't whitewashed, and some of the things that you find out that have been hidden and not been allowed to be told are just absolutely shocking, and in a town like this, although there are creative people coming in, there's so many conservative people here, and it's an older demographic, and you just find even today, even though it's better, people on the streets, on bloody fitty chit-chat or whatever it is on Facebook, still say the most disgusting, ignorant things, and I know that it's probably come from, that's what they've learnt their whole lives, but there's still a lot to do. It's not done. We're not there. It's amazing, but, it's still not great, perfect,
It's a journey.
It might change because next year, isn't it, becoming part of the curriculum that the New Zealand history is taught, so, and probably from a Maori perspective as well.
Yeah.
So that there'll be a whole generation coming up with more knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, baffled at, even because I kind of live in my own little world, in my own space with friends who are like-minded to me, and then when you step outside of that, things that you hear from people, and I'm not just saying older people, but it's just people everywhere, not alone in this town. It's actually quite scary, and it's quite a scary world for Māori people to live in, you know, like it's just awful. And it's just backhanded comments and stuff like that. And it goes for all sorts of social issues like homophobia and transphobia and all of that. It's all like crazy to me, you know, in this town. Climate change isn't real, you know.
Oh, yeah, that was in the paper this week.
Yeah, it's just, exactly, like it just, because I'm progressive, I just seem to sometimes forget the people that aren't, you know.
And that's when that saying that patience is a virtue comes so strong, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to promote with this show, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people come to me and say, why would you bring that person? Why would you talk to that person? And I'm like, you never know when something's going to click.
Yes.
For someone,
That's
you know,
right.
like it might be an opportunity for me to learn things that I don't know.
Yeah.
But if someone says something that I don't agree with, if we establish a common ground, if we find things that we both agree and then we keep digging a little bit more and then, I see, maybe it's an insecurity, maybe it's a place of ignorance that you're coming from. And can we go around it and see? So like dialogue, it's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard because it seems like you're talking to a fucking door.
Yeah. Brick wall, you know.
I'm not saying that it's easy,
No.
but you know, like it's about the journey, right?
Yes.
And Stu, my lovely brother, always says the obstacle is the way.
Oh, the obstacle is the way. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a good
so
one.
you gotta go through some of those moments in life sometimes, right?
I think we have a positive move in our new mayor.
Shout out to Len.
Shout out to Len, because a lot of his ideas are built on community and how to make it better, and you know what's going on in the world in general, how we can get a more green, more green stuff going, and the recycling thing.
Yeah.
He's really into that, and he's not afraid to talk about it. And also, a little plug, he's the banjo player in our Dixie band. And he'll be playing with us tomorrow for the lighting of the Christmas tree.
Yeah. Where is that?
It's just down
Taylor's
Mistake.
Taylor's Mistake in Fitzhanga. So if you're around, if you're in the Coromando,
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. If you're watching a replay of this, it's the 3rd of December, 7 o'clock, Taylor's Mistake.
Yeah, they're going to light the Christmas tree at 8 o'clock. And the Dixie band plays from 7. And with a bit of luck, Len will have time. He's quite busy now.
Busy man.
We don't see him as often as we used to. He doesn't come to many of our practices anymore, but he has said he will play with us tomorrow.
Amazing. That's good.
But I think that's very positive for the Coromandel, because, as you say, it's quite conservative and right-wing, and there's a lot of farmers and fishermen, you know, sort of the culture of not thinking of a pretty straight culture.
Yeah.
And so this is positive, I think.
I think so.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I like that. Guys, this is a very important moment here for me. You know, like I always, there are a lot of people in the community that I want to bring to have a chat on the show. And like you guys have been right at the top of the list for a long time. I was always saying, that would be the time will come. And then when it came from someone who was actually part of the show before, and then Petra was like, you know what would be cool, you know, and I was like, yeah, I know what would be cool, I'm sure what would be cool. So I just want to say thank you, actually, because not many people know that, but Paul was the first person who came to me and said, man, you know what, like I've been teaching percussion and drums, like I'm not a drummer, like I do my thing, but like it would be cool if you could do something there. Do you want to go and have a chat? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe we could give it a go. And like just the opportunities, and I think that's the message that I want to pass. It's not just like being, thank you so much for being awesome. It's like telling you know, like especially the young people watching this, listening to this, like be so mindful of what's happening in front of you. Because like those little things that sometimes you don't pay too much attention or you take it for granted, like they could be the biggest opportunities in your life, you know, like had a chat with John Wright yesterday after my drumming presentation, and he said beautiful words. I said, oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. And he was like, well, it was never a bet, you know, like having you at the school, like, and I was like, man, cool, you know, like you're just doing your thing, but sometimes you don't realize that there's a big picture, that there's a lot of things happening around you, and the people who are around you, they play such a big role in our lives, you know, like, so yeah, I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you to you guys. And I know that a lot of people watching this and enjoying this, like, they feel the same. I hear that so many times. They're like, oh, Paul and Jenni, man, you know, like they were so supportive and so cool. Like they helped us so much. So yeah.
Definitely.
I still get people around town, like the big strapping carpenter around town comes up and says, do you remember me, Miss Dennis? And I'm looking, I said, no, I'm the little boy you locked in the cupboard.
Drops back.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, you know, because we've been in the community for so long, but it was great. And big ups for John Wright also. Very supportive of the arts at school.
Yeah.
You know, so he was very supportive and built us the new art department and all that. So.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are we missing any dates or anything that is happening for the future, so we can give it an input now, Paul, please?
Nothing too urgent, because we haven't, like, we're just hoping that post-COVID, the live gigs are just starting to regenerate, and we're hoping that that's going to get some more people in the community itchy to have a go at big band. That's what we're here for. With Kenjia, she's our hero because she's been our...
I like that.
She's had our first scholarship. So we got 2 more scholarships, and anybody in the community can who can read a bit of music, get the itch to have a play with a big buzz live sound. Yeah, that's what's hopefully happening. And
we're really nice, aren't we, Kenya? We're not.
No,
we're not nice.
No, seriously though, it has been a really good thing for me, and I know there's lots of other young people in this community who have played wind instruments and stopped, but honestly, like, in terms of music, big band is pretty amazing, you know, all the harmonies and jazz and stuff like that. It's really good for music, it's really good for you, and it's just good, you know, like, as I said, yes, I can read music, but I'm not like a classical being able to read. As long as you can play.
And you can have input.
Yeah.
For if you want to input a song, like we do modern songs. We do.
We've got funky soul and Latin and kind of stuff going on.
So you don't have to just play oldie. I mean, you know, quite a few of the songs are traditional big band songs, but we have lots of other stuff.
And it's a very supportive environment as well. That's what I always remember, you know, like, because for me it was challenging, you know, like I read enough to teach and be in that position of being challenged, of listening to you guys and having to step up, you know, like if I cannot read all these pieces, I have to listen to them very well and focus on my practice so I can still...
We all have to step
every time through, you get better. Hey, you get more of a buzz. Hey, it's starting to happen. You know, I'm part of it.
Really can ignite inspiration in you as well, going back into that kind of world, because lots of young people, we don't play jazz anymore. It's a dying genre, unfortunately, but this is just the way it is. And jazz has influenced so many things. The fact that in this town we have a place where you can go and play jazz music is pretty incredible, you know, and more young people need to do it, because it like, I pretty much had almost stopped music, and that inspired me back into it. So if there's any young people out there, and I know there's lots of us who have played wind instruments, should just go
rock
on
up.
down.
Great.
Rock up.
What is the best way to contact you guys?
Well, I'm the contact for anybody who's interested. So that's Soul Sax at extra.co.nz, Jani Dennis. So shall I say that again?
Slowly, please. You never know, you might be a foreigner listening to this show.
Soul Sax, all lowercase, Soul, SOULSAX, one word, at extra.co.nz.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys.
Hey, Leo,
Yes.
thank you for being the mover and shaker in our community. It's very exciting that I just blissed out at what you've been able to give us in the last, since we've got to know what you've been doing since you've been here. Very exciting. Keep on. Very exciting. And Kenya, you keep on too. Like we're gonna do too. We're just you just write your songs, play your instrument, get the buzz of playing in groups with other people.
We're not going to stop, eh?
No.
We've just started.
Not yet, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. What a special show.
You're welcome. Thank
you very
you.
much,
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're always welcome to come back.
Oh, okay.
That's for sure. Oh,
right.
Friday nights, right?
Yeah.
Let's go for
Friday
the
night.
pizza.
Hello, I've got something to say.
Breast free food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best pizzas.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Kenya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leo.
Lots of
We're back next week with a big week. It's going to be an amazing one. So we have Ben Brown on Monday. He's a Red Bull athlete, and he's got one of the biggest fishing channels in the country. Check him out. It's going to be an amazing show on Monday. I'm going to have the privilege to have my brother Stupidly on Wednesday. He's releasing his new album on Monday, and he's coming here for a good chat on Wednesday with Mr. Roberts, so it's going to be a pretty special one. And then on Friday, we have DJ Log Cabin from Fat Freddy's Drop. I'm going to say it again, from Fat Freddy's Drop. So we're going to places, man.
You're going there.
We're going to places. Stay with us. Kapai. Ciao.
Ciao.